Oh, whoops. I'm not a pro streamer, if you haven't realized. Okay. Is that working now? Okay, let me turn this down a little bit. Okay, cool. I've like streamed a bit before, but usually I just kind of record my screen and I just work. Also mainly because I hate my own voice. But at least streaming, I don't have to listen to my own voice back unless I made a mistake the other day of opening up one of my old like VODs and like clicking through it, and there was me like explaining how to do a wiggle effect. I was like, oh god, Char, why do you sound like that? But yeah, let me I like that YouTube says this is 360 and it is not 360. Okay, there we go. Let's put this in Discord real quick. But hi, how are y'all today? Okay, cool. Yeah, it should be 1080. I think when I set up the original like schedule, like usually I don't schedule things. I accidentally clicked that it was a 360 video, and YouTube was like, hell yeah, we're gonna promote it as a 360 video, and like all day I was like, it's not. Hi Tate. But it went away, which is good. So yeah, I'm still getting set up and whatnot. I clicked through some of the videos, which I'll probably say again. I picked like 6 from this year that I liked doing, or I thought were like important learning parts for me. I did like 2 videos from January to July, and then like 14 for the second half of the year. So it's very back end heavy. But I try to pick things that were cool, and I'm not that talented. But okay, I think I'll actually kind of explain now. I'll actually explain now kind of what I'm planning on doing. So like I said, I picked 6 videos that from throughout the year that I worked on. They're my quote Weeb videos, so they're CBs, commissions, personal projects that I took on, you know, the things you normally see on your Twitter. And one thing that I'm going to kind of say a few times throughout this is I'll call things real videos, or like real music videos, or clients, or real work. And I don't mean it in any kind of like this mean, harsh way. I just have this separation of my work. I have like my work, and then my Weeb work. And they're both work. It's just personally I, you know, separate the two. Hi, Missy. So yeah, personally, I separate the two. I have like my NBA job, and then I have my freelance work, and then I have my Weeb work, and then I have like personal projects. And personal projects fall into Weeb work, and freelance and NBA is kind of work. So I'll kind of use those terms a little bit when I'm like comparing things to other things going on during that time. But just putting that out there. This is mainly just for my anime Weeb work. So yeah, what we're gonna do is kind of just watch through these videos. I'm gonna be pausing and kind of nitpicking certain things that I see that I could improve on, and then kind of doing like an overall talk about the video and the process, just a little bit, kind of like reflecting on it. And then if you guys have any questions about like the actual video or effects in the video or whatnot, I'll open up the project files, which are probably a disaster, and we can like look at certain effects and whatnot. If not, then we'll just kind of keep going through the other projects. One thing I'll link to, give me 1 second, is my playlist to kind of all my music videos. And give me 1 second. So if there is something, like I said, I picked a few from this year that I thought were like, I wouldn't say the best, but they're definitely, yes, ask questions, After Effects. But they're definitely, like, I think, some of the ones that I'm either most proud of technically, or, like I said, had some sort of importance to me this year. So yeah, that's my playlist of, like, music videos. And there are some, like I said, work videos in there, too. But mainly music or lyric related. So yeah, let me switch over. If I can figure it out. Okay. And once again, I apologize when you see my desktop. I need to clean it. I just haven't. So yeah, the first video that it actually published in February. January was a really slow year for me. Like, the slow month. I think when I started out the year, I was mainly working on, like, a work project for the NBA. We had the All-Star project that was coming up. So that kind of, like, consumed all my time. But Rising Stars, the Merge Round 2 was due in February. So that was kind of, like, the first big CB or anime video that I worked on. So yeah, let's just see. Oh yeah, male nipples. So yeah, just kind of starting off. I really enjoyed, this was like one of the first takes into like that realism. Thanks. Yeah, it was kind of like my first take into the meshing that those real environments with the characters, which you'll see in the next video, especially. Oh, hold on. Okay, yeah, especially more. But this was kind of like the first step in this. And it was kind of like my time playing with that neon and these outer glows and kind of mixing the two, trying to get those reflects in the ground and whatnot. One thing that I'm noticing, kind of looking back, is that some of my camera moves are a little... You see right here? There's a little jump in some of the camera moves. They're assets. These I pulled from a DeviantArt account. If you go to the actual link, there should be a, yeah, resources. Yeah, and this has, like, I think most of these were from this DeviantArt. They just have a bunch of cool stock backgrounds. Oops. The other thing that I noticed is this was at the beginning of the year. I bought a bunch of plugins. And so you can see here, this is me trying to use Element 3D a bit. And I still really don't know what I'm doing with it. I'm really bad at compositing and whatnot, but this was kind of like my first experiment using it. So you'll see that's with the stoplight, and I think some of these chains. Alright, I'll try to not talk as much. Yeah, these are 3D models, which are also part of that resource link. This, I was rewatching this earlier just a bit to see like what I was working with today. This bothers me. Here, the whole 3D setup is a little jank. And you'll see it multiple times through the video. What are you talking about exactly? Are you talking about, like, that glow that I have going on around it? Or the main way I composite things, it has to do a lot with color correction. And I'll kind of go into this, especially with the next video, because I think the next video I did a better job working with this. But yeah, the main thing with like compositing things in is really taking into effect the light source of the background and the scene and replicating that into the art. Because the art is usually designed and drawn, especially for CBs, in a way that is already set in stone. And I'll go into it more when I find a real example. I'll make sure to bring it up. But kind of faking that light to make sure it matches that background. And then color correcting everything in kind of that same tone. You'll see here too, I have a little bit of a mess up with the particles here. Something that I learned later this year was that layer styles like the outer glow override 3D space in After Effects. So if you have things in Z space, if you have things in Z space, usually it is shown, like, if you're looking through the camera, whatever's closest to the camera is in front of whatever's farthest away from the camera, like how a normal 3D set would work. But if you have something farther away from the camera, so farther back in Z space, and you add a layer style to it, if that layer is on top in the layer order, it will push it forward regardless of its Z depth. So you run into this thing where things that are farther away from the camera are actually showing up closer to the camera because you're adding some kind of layer glow, stroke, or something like that. It's certain effects, and then one way, once you kind of learn that this happens, is you can cheat it if you want something like that to happen by using adjustment layers or layer styles to pull things forward. But this was kind of during that time when I was still kind of learning that. Is my bad capaciting again. Okay, so we're about to get into the rap part. And this is one of those things that I definitely improved on later in the year because I kind of was forced to do a lot more rap things. But this is a little jank. So yeah, one thing about this section that looking back on it, I can't stand is that I literally made a tutorial, I think like 2 days after this video came out, on this right here. So these are animating on by character using a text animator in After Effects. But I never moved the anchor point of each character to the center, which you don't have to do. It's more of like an aesthetic thing, but it defaults in After Effects to each character having its anchor point set right at the bottom. So you can see that everything is kind of scaling from that bottom section. And I knew how to fix it. I just didn't. So that was the first video of 2020 that I did. And I pulled like 2 all-nighters to get it done because it was a CB and that's how it works. So there's definitely things that are, you know, rushed and whatnot. But overall, I think there's like a good test, especially for like round 3, which we'll kind of go through next. Of like getting those real kind of environments, playing with the art a little bit more, messing with these glows, me trying to get this 3D stuff figured out. Even though it didn't work that great, I still want to do that. I still need to experiment with doing 3D stuff a little bit more. Especially, I downloaded Blender again, so kind of playing with that and seeing what I could do with Element 3D going forward, but frame-wise, I think design, it's pretty strong, especially in certain parts, especially the compositing, like adding these subtle shadows and whatnot. And I also have like a reflect in the ground. So yeah, just adding like those details I think look nice. But yeah, there's definitely things that could be improved. Animation-wise too, my camera moves are very... Trying to find a section. Like right here. We almost come to a full stop. So we're pulling back from this art. So we're zooming back in Z-space, we're slowing down, and then we're pushing back even more. And something that I would normally do, like I used to, let's just add a shape. So this works on really anything, but I was doing this in Z-space a lot. Was I would, you know, have it start at 0 and then go to here and then push all the way through. And what I was doing originally was just setting 3 keyframes, going to easy ease, F9ing this, and then really just pulling these handles so it's fast. So yeah, let's speed this up a little bit so it gets the whole thing. So, like I was doing that, which looked fine, but kind of going forward later, I realized, which I think I knew at the time, it just takes that extra step to do, is like, I don't want it to completely stop in that center point. So like right now in the video, it's zooming in and there's a few frames where it gets really stuck right in that center. And it's not actually, there is some slight movement. I think it gets to a 0% velocity for a frame, but then keeps moving. But one way to get by this now is to like go into these frames and instead of having the velocity go to 0, which it would default as if you easy ease, setting this, which makes it a little jank, and then having it not go quite to 0. And this takes a little practice, playing with especially the speed graph, which I'm using here. But yeah, you see now we're not going to totally stop at 0. So there's always kind of that slight push. It still slows down in that center section, which is why you have that keyframe there, but it's a little bit smoother. You don't get that jank. I also think, looking back, this was the project where I got Universe installed, Element 3D, and that's why there's so many effects on it. But yeah, the next video has to do with the same project. It's still Merge Spring Day. And I kind of want to get into this too, because some of your questions about compositing, I took it even further in this video. This video was way more of that real life integrated with the art. So I actually did a breakdown on a stream breakdown of certain effects on this. Let me post that real quick. Sorry, I have like a million things open. Because this was a project where I learned a lot about different effects, trackers. Pretty much I never did anything like this before. So yeah, that's like my old stream. I think it's like an hour long of me kind of breaking down trackers and, you know, talking to people about other effects that I was doing during it. But yeah, let's get started on this. So this was a long boys, 5 minutes. This was round 3. It was originally supposed to be due in March, right when I got back from LA, but because of COVID and all of that snaz, it got pushed back to June, which was great because spring wasn't really a great time for me mentally, which is probably why I didn't do a bunch of other stuff. But yeah, it was nice kind of having time to actually... This was one of the first projects where I fully rigged and did puppets for... I'll open up Spine too, so we could talk about it after. But yeah, let's just watch the video. Oops. So yeah, this had an intro to it. So yeah, you can see that this one, I kind of took that compositing idea to the next level. I got footage in there. I started tracking footage points. And this scene drove me crazy at the start because you're working with a flat background, so you're working with video footage of like this train car, but the video footage has depth to it. And what I wanted to do was create a camera that I could animate and zoom in and out while having the background, which was a flat layer with 3D space, which is technically impossible to get 100% correctly. So what I had to do was track the movement of the background, connect that to a null. I'm about to sneeze. No, I'm good. Okay, but yeah, then attach that to a null, and then use that null to drive a camera for this art. and then add the background behind that and kind of fake that zoom on the background. Also, this ice effect, it was a little bit of a pain to figure out at first. It's like 2 matte channels on top of each other that are using to bring these footages on and off. This section I still think is one of the weaker sections in the video. I don't really like the look of these snowflakes and whatnot, but it's alright. This shot right here, I probably could have cleaned up more. I actually I posted it on Twitter, and I think it's in that other video. I removed a couple that was in the background of this, which is why this fence is a little bit warped right here. Because in the original stock footage, there was a couple standing in the background, and I was like, I don't want real people in the video. I did that a few times in this. Yes, I did yeet people out. And yeah, for this course, one thing that I had to learn how to do, this was one of the first projects where I got Twixtor, which A and B people use a lot, but it confuses the fuck out of me. I use it for work, like the NBA a few times, but what Twixtor does is it takes footage and you're able to remap footage without getting a stuttering effect. So, like, let's say you have a video, like I did here. So I have this background footage of this snow on this tree, and the background footage was panning upwards. So it was actually doing the camera move that I wanted it to do for the actual video, because I wanted to pan up on this art. And you can tell I actually flashed there to like hide it a little bit more. But what I did was track this art into the footage. So I took tracker points and I composited the art in a 3D space with the background, which was working better than what I was talking about before, because the camera of the footage was actually moving the way I wanted it to. But I wanted to speed up and slow down because I wanted that ease in and ease out. So I had to then take that pre-comp and add Twixtor to it to remap it to get that speed. And what that does is it creates frames that aren't there to smooth out slowing a video down. Because if you take something that's 24 frames a second and you slow it down, so it was 2 seconds and now it's 10 seconds, you're going to get a really, really jagged movement because there's not frames to fill there. So what Twixtor does is it fills in the spaces between those frames by guessing like what would be there during that time. So you see a little bit of the artifacting on especially on the text and whatnot, because the text also had to be put into that because it was in that same camera move. And also how his puppet animation, his actual character animation, it speeds up right there. It's rap time. The rap part in this feels a little bit out of place because I don't have the same exact coloring, I don't think, going on. And also I have way more actual camera movement going on versus the rest of it. The rest of the video is actually pretty simple with camera moves. The complexity in the rest of the video comes with the compositing, the tracking, everything else. But it's actually pretty simple move camera-wise. So yeah, this section I'm not a total fan of. Like, I don't mind it as a standalone thing, but in the video it seems a little out of place to me. And I actually toned it down, I think, a lot from the original animation that I did for it. I originally was doing a lot more cuts and a lot more fast movements, and I didn't like it, so I kind of simplified it, which I think is important for people, especially animators, to keep into account, is that, like, it doesn't need to be crazy. Which is something I kind of go back and forth on, where I'll over-animate, and then I'll take things back, and then I'll be like, oh, it's too simple, I need to animate more. So it's kind of finding this balance based off the song and the style and everything else you're doing. Same thing on this part as before. So yeah, this scene, I think I did it in that one video where I broke things down, but like you said, talking about compositing, I'll kind of open up the project file and show you, because it looks simple, but I actually had to do a few different comps to get the lighting to match with this background that was way more orange than the art originally was. This is another section where I think it could have been improved. I think this was the last section I did. And this was another one where I stayed up days in a row working on. So yeah, main section I was talking about was this bridge. I was trying to do like a double exposure thing, like I was doing in that one section with the snowflakes, which I also didn't like as much. I don't hate it as much. I think the ribbon effect looks cool. I think it just could have done with a little bit more work. You know it all. You're my best friend. You also run into things like this. Also, this part right here. This is just like a meme. That, there's some kind of sound, vocals, music, something in the background that sounds exactly like Miko when she's yowling for something. And every time this came up when I was animating it, I would take off my headphones and turn around and be like, "Cat, what do you want?" And then I finally realized that it was actually part of the song. Yeah, that's Spring Day. That was one of the ones I spent a lot more time on, I think. Like, it was so rushed because it was a CB, but having all that time in spring off and, like, with the pandemic and everything, I was kind of like, oh, I got to play games and kind of reset my brain and then work on this thing. And like I was saying, this was one of the few projects where I was actually able to do, like, full, rigs, which, you know, looking back on, they're not perfect because I had to do so many. I had to do all 4 characters, and then the alt outfits were close to the same. I used the same animation data and the same rig. I just updated the style, but I still had to go in and repaint and prep all the secondary outfits. I also had to reanimate some because I think one... Yeah, this one, he has a hat in his normal art and then no hat in the second one, which took a little bit more processing. But yeah, this was like my first time using spine in the CB world. Which was fun. I want to do it more. I just need to actually... It takes time, and it takes time away from actually animating and designing the video, which I think is the most important thing, especially in like a CBU or any kind of circumstance. So, kind of finding that balance between doing stuff like this, which adds a lot to like the production value, but you still need a good design and actual base animation. But yeah, let's see if I can open up that Spring Day project. I'll show a little bit of the compositing stuff that I did on that. I'm gonna warn you, it's a mess. That would be in terabyte. Wow, this is about to take a hot second to open. But it makes sense. There's so much stock footage in this project. Yeah, one thing that I'm lucky is that I actually own a lot of subscriptions to stock sites because of work. And like freelance projects, I just had to get subscriptions to stuff because I do so much stock. I need so much stock for like other music videos or work and whatnot. Alright, let's see if this works. Eh? Eh? There we go. So yeah, compositing wise, I think this was one of the sections that I did a bit on. If I can find, oh, I haven't opened these comps and fucking. This is what I wanted. Yeah, this is why you name your comps, people, because otherwise you end up with me spring day for animation.mp3 comp 132222223. Okay, but yeah, like I was saying, this is a. Let's find that part where it's in focus. So something that I did here is, like, I saw the background. This has a bunch of color correction on it too, which I'll turn off currently. Oh, the color correction's actually one layer up, right? Yeah. So you see, this is what it looks like with all my color correction and whatnot. So it kind of adds that blue tint and brings out the yellows. So this is without color correction. And what I did here was I took the background and I was like, okay, so we have the sun coming from this direction, which is why I added this lens flare in front of the art here. So you're pretending, okay, the sun's coming from here. And it's a little warmer than the original art was. So I pre-comped the art. Oh yeah, actually, so yeah, this is what it ended up looking like. I forgot, I messed with the comps a bit when I was doing that last stream. And so it's not quite one-to-one to what it is. But what I did was I brought in these individual comps for this scene, and I was like, alright, so we're gonna have the light hitting from this direction. We need to... I added an optical flare, which was starting up here and was pointing down this direction. And I added that to the art, so that adds a little bit of that yellow tint from up here. And then I was like, okay, so if it's lighting from up here, it would be a little bit darker on this half. And like I said, this isn't perfect. You can go in and spend a lot more time building out these actual light kind of rigs. But I was like, all right, so now I'll duplicate this character art. I'll bring down the levels so it's a darker version. And I'll just mask it out so you add a little bit of that darkness in the bottom half. And then you bring that into the actual comp itself. And then I did the same thing with Elliot. I went in and added a darker to this side. And I think, like I said, I played with it a bit since then. But yeah, you see there, like, it's a little bit more integrated. So let me take a screen. Then if I was to so yeah, there's like before and after, and like I said, it's not perfect, but you can see that it's doing something. It's adding a little bit more of that light to the scene. And that's something I do, like, where's my character art? So, like, with, Monster, what I would do, since it was a layer style that I wanted to only do in certain sections, you would take this, so this would be your art, you duplicate this and you'd be like, all right, so I want a layer style and I want an inner glow. So now you have your inner glow. But let's just make this red so it's easier. But you only wanted the inner glow for some part. This is gonna look really bad, but you only wanted it for like here. The issue with a layer style is if you go in and you try to mask this, it is linked to that layer, so you'll get this hard line. So what you have to do is then take this comp, delete this mask, pre-comp this, pre-comp, move all attributes, and then mask it like this. Where the fuck did I just go? There it is. And now you can add a feather. And what I would do is I'd just paint, then I'd be like, okay, I want the red to hit on the shoulder. And maybe a little bit down here. And you kind of paint in those areas where you want that light to hit. I'm sorry, Pierre. So yeah, that's kind of like how I'd fake kind of doing some of this light. I'd be like, all right, here, just paint things in. Is there anything else in this godforsaken comp? Here you can see my yeet. There they are. Two I removed. I decided I didn't want them in the video. But okay. Yeet. And yeah, I did that multiple times in this video. That was just like the one time where, like, I think that was the first thing I did. I was like, oh, I can, because like I was in a work call with the rest of the group, and I was like, god damn, I can't find any like good stock footage, because they all has these people in the background. It was like the same couple in every single background with these like snowy stock footages. And she's like, oh god, if only there was a way to like remove them. And I was like, wait, I can do that. And it started the whole process. But alright, so that was kind of like the start of the year. And then, you know that gif of Rafiki throwing Simba off the Pride Rock? That's what we were using as a reference of me removing people from the video. But yeah, like I was saying, that was kind of the start of the year. Those are the CBs that I was doing. And then from, I think, Spring Day, mixed with like just social interaction, I started getting more commissions, like actual animation commissions, and more collab reach outs. So the next video is a commission that I did for Sapphire, which I really liked how it turned out. It's purely type for the most part. It has some art in it, but for the most part it is a purely type kind of, it's short, but it kind of like fueled my love for like actual typography stuff. Hold on.
You've got a lot to do today. Feel proud and wipe your eyes, cause they stifle the yawn. Stayed up till dawn, let's see what you've been working on. It's gone. Keep in mind the deadline is closing in. Your byline, the headline, they're in the bin. Uncompleted, all deleted. What's going on? You'll have to crunch and work till done till you die. Cut out the corners, cross the T's and dot the I's. Without the white but keep it in good taste. Just so that no one will ever know it's defaced. Epithet erased.
So yeah, that was a short commission, but I had a lot of fun working on this one. It really kind of fit my style that I was doing closer to the end of last year with CBs, which was like that super blocky color style, which I enjoyed doing because I enjoyed the simple kind of animation, the simple design look, but the more complex animation. So yeah, just really playing with the type and...
Wake up, you've got a lot to do today. Feel proud and wipe your eyes, cause they stifle the...
Like, if I was really going to nitpick, right, I don't even know if I'm going to be able to pause on it. Yeah, I'm not even going to be able to stop, but you'll see. When it falls down, it's a little laggy.
Stayed up till dawn, let's see what you've been working on. It's gone. Keep in mind the deadline is closing in. Your byline, the headline, they're in the bin. Uncompleted, all deleted. What's going on? You'll have to crunch and work till done till you die. Cut out the corners, cross the T's.
Also, this right here, it's supposed to be eyes, but the font didn't have a lowercase I. And I was like, no one's gonna notice. And of course, they fucking noticed.
Keep it in good taste. Just so that no.
Also, like certain effects. Like I think this was kind of just like a half-assed.
Without the white, but keep it in good taste. Just so that no one will ever know it's defaced.
Also, these, I have an ease. And I think the E stops right before this covers everything. Which, you know, a normal person wouldn't realize, but...
Erased.
So yeah, I don't have, like, much to say about this one in particular. Of course, there are things that could be done a little bit better, but this was way more of just like a fun project that I enjoyed doing. Which kind of started my spiral into doing more commissions because Sapphire, and it made more people want me to do videos. So we're getting into like the later half of the year now, where I did a lot more work. And part of it's like my work actually suffers a bit. Because I had a lot of work going on, and I had a lot of commissions going on, and I had a CD going on, and freelance work going on. So it's kind of me balancing all these things at once. This was kind of like the start of that session, which I'm finally kind of getting out of, slightly. One fun thing about this video in After Effects is that oh yeah, I could share that too. I actually did the whole thing rotated at a 90-degree angle. Because I rotated the camera and then I just never rotated it back. So I built the whole project 90 degrees on the Z-axis, and I don't know why. I could have fixed it at any time, but I didn't. But yeah, this project, I did another breakdown. Not really breakdown, this is more like a speed time-lapse of me working on it. I'd recorded the whole process. Let's see if I open up the project real quick. No, I don't want to save. This would be in storage. So yeah, one other thing about this is I did this all in pretty much one comp, which is pretty rare for me. Usually I use a lot of pre-comps, but since this was so type heavy and so connected, I think I just went forward with it. But yeah, down here, a null 3 I think rotates. One of these rotates 90 degrees and then everything is flipped from there, yeah. So it flips. That does everything. Yeah, I don't have much to say about this one. Really, it was just a fun project, like I said. This, I think, is a good mix of, Z space, like 3D space, but keeping it flat. Which, oh, I think I had to do the cheat. Here. I don't know, but yeah, like I was saying, that cheat with the adjustment layers or whatnot. So let's see, if I take this, just so I can show you kind of what I had to do, or what I do sometimes now, is like, okay, let's take a solid, do white. Let's pick these 3D, rotate this. 90. So I don't know why you'd have to do this totally like this. Like, you could build something the correct way so this doesn't happen, but it does still happen at times. So let's say, so what we have now is, if we look in like our 2 camera view, if we make this a custom, so we have this character on this plane in 3D space, right? So this is actually in a pseudo 3D space, so this is going backwards. And what you run into is like, alright, if we add this in front of here. So now we have the logo, and if we push the logo back in space, even though this layer is on top of this white and this art, if we push this back in Z space, it'll go behind the character, right? Because that's how it works. Your camera is up here, you're looking at this, and then you're looking at that. Something that you learn is that, like, okay, if I was to add a layer style to this, it gets rid of that. So it's still technically behind it in Z space, but because of the layer style and the way After Effects processes everything, so it goes from the effects to the adjustment layers to the layer style, since the layer styles are the last part to be rendered, it pushes this forward, which isn't what you want. What you would have to do then is pre-comp this, add the layer style to the pre-comp, or just move this behind it and actually relayer your layers correctly. But you can use this to your advantage. Like, if you have this white solid and your foot is clipping through this bottom section here, and you're like, oh, you could just move this up and position it correctly, but if this was a real floor and had a texture on it, it might look a little weird. You might look like you're floating. So what you could do then is you could either add a blank layer style to this, to like add one, but then turn it off and put this on top. So now you're still in 3D space and you're still actually clipping under this technically, but you're forcing that art to come forward. Another way to do this is to use a adjustment layer, which would do the same thing. So if I was to delete this layer style, I would put it back into there. If you literally just make a blank adjustment layer, I'll do the same thing. There's nothing on this adjustment layer. It's just there. But because of it, the way After Effects renders everything, it pushes anything that's on top of it forward in Z-Space. Not in Z-Space, but in the render process. Okay. Okay, so the next video is one I have issues with this one design-wise. I think it was a good experiment, and I learned a lot of cool tech, like type stuff. But it's definitely not my strongest design-wise. And this was one of the times where I think October I did 3 or 4 commissions on top of work. And I had just finished up a big NBA project. Literally, I think the start of October, I finished up a really big NBA project that I had to pull like 2 all-nighters for because they changed the show. And then that night or morning, I had like pulled my 3rd all-nighter. Soji messages me and he's like, "Can you animate this?" And for some reason I said yes. I mean, I enjoyed doing it. It kind of started my fall into VTuber hell, which I'm not totally in, just a little bit. And also I opened up more projects and I got to practice more rap stuff and all. So all in all, it was good. It was just a lot.
皆さん、今日の楽しいライブ配信に来てくれて誠にありがとうございます。今日もラップしたいと思います。では始めましょうか。
Fuck it, once upon a time a little fucked up boy said 石ころ投げても 100% の確率で当たらないから効率的方法を探しましょう。一等賞ことのマッサイティスト本当もとま逆に人格の死神死んだ地区状態で上にもっと石ころ置いてどうなるか見てみましょう。
So like I was saying earlier with the yeah, it's right, I don't sleep. I'm trying to fix that this year a little bit. But like I was saying earlier with the rap sections, so Dr. R was like the main coordinator of this, and it's all rap. And so I just had to get used to it. And then I had to do another commission for him I just finished up, which is also all rap. So it's been like a learning process. Especially with Japanese rap, because with English, I actually can, understand the words most of the time. It's even if they're talking fast. With Japanese, it's like, I know very basic, like, hiragana and katakana. So I'm able to tell, like, usually where phrases start and end, but it's hard for me to, like, actually break things up by character. But I'm working on it. Country rap? That's probably one of my favorite parts in this video. I liked animating this a lot. It's a lot going on and it's really fast, but there they are. So yeah, I really like doing the chorus. Certain parts of the video I'm pretty happy with. I wish, like most things, I had time, but this was a contest and I had, I think, a bunch of other projects going on at the same time, which is always fun. There's a lot of like, yo, what the fuck, Soji? I'm talking about you. Well, kind of. But yeah, this kind of took that fast style approach that I started doing more of later in the year. You see like things progress, especially like going to the next video in like speed and like the amount of cuts and the amount of edits to the music. Which, like I said earlier, it's not needed for every single video, but kind of practicing doing that and practicing these really interesting, more interesting like type techniques, like here I was doing some like stretching with the letters. This, which I started doing a lot, the plastic bag, that's what I call that, the thank you bag. This, my favorite effect. The thank you bag. But yeah, doing more glitchy kind of stuff like this was cool. Especially video that I just finished up today, which should be out in the next day or two, I think. I do a lot more of that. It was the one I was working on stream a few days ago, but I finished that one up. Yes, the plastic bag effect, the ultimate Katy Perry effect. One product that I didn't put in this playlist, but I'll show just a little bit of it and I'll link it. Before I get into the next thing. This one was very different than anything else I've done, because I worked with actual animators and, you know, artists. So she came to me just needing an After Effects compositor to kind of composite things together. And so all the art, like, was super prep for me. And it was really just adding the scales and the camera moves and speed lines and all of this kind of extra stuff to it, and actually animating it in Z-Space and you know, back and forth, animating the fingers. This was another project that I did in October. I'll link it so you can see the actual video. But yeah, there's not much for me to say in terms of like After Effects animation for this, but I just thought it was a super cool project that I got to work on. It was totally different than anything else I did this year in terms of videos. But yeah, watch the whole video. It's got some twists and turns story-wise, which is pretty neat. Just want to throw that in there a little bit before we keep going with like After Effects heavy stuff. So yeah, the next video, I went back and just, okay. I spent way too much time on this video. And, like, even parts of it are super rushed. Like, the whole glitchy part that you're about to see, I did, like, 30 minutes before the deadline, I think. And I had, like, a Business Insider project going on, and the 2 Crunchyroll projects going on, and then my NBA work going on all at the same time. For some reason, I was like, hell yeah, we're just gonna spend all of this time on the CB animation. And, yeah. I did that.
It's kinda useless.
Same, much because I actually like this video for the most part. There's, of course, things that I would, fix and whatnot, but this was like just a really fun video to work on. This was the part I was talking about with the glitch. And the beginning and the end.
Yo, Angela's being hella sus right now.
What? You think I'm the imposter? Rude.
Hey, your words, not mine.
Wait, didn't I see you hovering around a minute for the report?
It's Angela. It's clearly her.
What'd you think, Kura?
K-chan has been following me around non-stop since the start. What's up with that?
Hey, I'm scared, man. I just want to stay safe.
Sounds legit. Let's pass.
Okay. One thing, like, there's a few things that I'm going to talk about, but the one part in particular, which I remember thinking, Char, you need to switch to the direction. I remember thinking it, and I remember putting K-chan in the comp.
Let's pass.
But she's moving the wrong direction in this scene. Because I pretty much just repeated this. Where he's going this way. So I just duplicated the scene. But the art's facing the other way. One other thing that I did that I probably spent way too much time on, which you don't actually see, is what's happening here is they're all bouncing up and down on a y-axis in their own pre-comp. And then it's matted into these sections like the pizza. But what happens when they're all doing it at the same time, it looks like it's just this fucking zooming in and out. You can kind of see it here, because its sprite's a little smaller. But I spent all this time like building all these individual comps and splitting up the layers into the individual sections and bouncing it up and down to the beat. And then I realized I was like, I could have just scaled the whole comp. Well, I think I thought about doing something else, like offsetting them a little bit or doing like go one up, one down, one up, one down, one up, one down. But then I ran out of time because it happens. This section, this bridge section, is a complete blur to me. This was the last part that I did. And I don't remember animating this. Well, besides the glitch part. It's sᴛʀᴇᴍ. We love Genshin here. This whole video is just Genshin. This fucking pisses me off every single time I watch this video. I cut this completely wrong right here. It is so jank. I should have kept the silhouette for maybe 3 or 4 frames longer before cutting. Also, we realized after the fact that the game would have been over at this point, but we could change the rules. It's not real Among Us.
I was a dancer the whole time, so couldn't be to be a crewmate, and here you are. Even finish that.
Okay. Why I did this, I'll never know the answer to. For some reason, 12 hours before the deadline, I was like, you know, it'd be a great idea if I downloaded an advanced Project Diva map and I recreated in After Effects. So I found like a legit, like a custom map for this song, since this song's not actually in Project Diva, in an expert mode of it. And I downloaded it, and I downloaded the UI, and I reanimated it on top of this art with this my own UI. And I remember starting it and being like, why am I spending time on this when I have the whole rest of the video to do? But I think it turned out cool. It was a cool idea. It fit the section in the audio, so it worked out in the end. I just remember sitting there. I remember tweeting on my private Twitter, like, why am I doing this? This is another thing that static. I have a few static frames here. It feels really jagged. So yeah, I really enjoyed working on this video. It was definitely one of the most fun I had animating something recently, because I just kind of went for it. I didn't really think, I just did. Which you could tell because there's freaking great shadow lenses in it. I also really like doing like the Easter egg stuff, like or like the story stuff, where it's like it's me working in After Effects on the project, not noticing murder. Or right is me and After Effects crashing. Yeah, this project also was one of my longer renders this year. I got a script or plugin. I don't know if it's a script or plugin. I think it's a script. Called Background Renderer, which actually saved my ass during this, because I was able to render ProRes straight out of After Effects, but in a background renderer while continuing to do After Effects work. So like if you go into my these are like the sections that were rendered out individually, and then I pieced it together because we were running out of time. Something else is fun to like watch is the really old like beta tests that I sent to people. So like this didn't have anything in it. You can see like there's certain parts where I like actually knew what I was doing. I do like color flashes like that a lot, where I'll just do fills until I figure out what I'm doing. Like that. So it's interesting to see like how much it changes or improves. Yeah. But yeah, it was fun overall. I really enjoyed this video. One thing, like, looking back on it that I wish I did more of was, like I said, in that one place, that transition is awful. So, working more on transitions. Also, that glitch part, I wanted to do some kind of more interesting glitch. I always look at like Pinterest. This is like where you'll see there's like, I have boards for a bunch of the different projects that I've been working on. But I don't know, doing more of a more hand-done glitch versus the very just choppy glitch that I ended up doing here. Other thing is, yeah, like that K-chan going backwards, that was just me fucking up. The type, this is how I wanted it to look, which I used kind of like a base style, which I like found online that I really liked, and then I took it and kind of made it my own colors and all of that. Added that gradient, but I messed it up a few times, especially in the course. I think Yeah, like this doesn't have that purple border around it because I had to bring it up in Z-Space. So kind of, yeah, just cleaning things up. That rotation here really bothers me. That one. So yeah, I think going forward, especially like with this being one of my later videos, is like working on smoothing out those frames, kind of making sure that's a priority. Another thing is like this is kind of on the tipping point for me where it's like too much pointless animation versus important stuff and essential animation. I talk about this a lot, but yeah, like the point of like making something that's effective for the song versus making something that's just a lot of motion for no reason. And this has a lot of cuts in it. There's definitely parts where it seems fast to me, but I'm also old now, and so there's that too. But yeah, mainly just the main issue that I had with this is just running out of time. I think if I had more time, like even with this background, there's some weird pixelation stuff going on. The other thing that I noticed, which I got a plugin halfway through this project for the Crunchyroll video that I was working on, which is called TV Pixel. It's a plugin that makes TV pixel looks. In this, I was using Universe Holograph or whatever to create the kind of LED look. And because of that, it has this circle right here. And it's like that everywhere that this effect is used.
Scared, man. I just want to stay safe. Sounds legit. Let's
Like, there it is again. It's kind of, yeah, just cleaning things up. Okay, next. So this is another commission that I did. Something that was funny that happened this year was, you know, everybody became a VTuber. That's just how life goes. But one of my friends retweeted. We were playing Among Us, and somehow I'm like, oh, I was always imposter for a time there, and it was always like never trust Char unless Char's dead, and then you could trust Char. And I made some tweet about it, and one of my friends retweeted it, who does VTubing stuff. There's a VTuber named Char, who then followed me because we're Char, and we stick together. But Char followed me, and I was like, oh, this is cool, like, another Char added to the Char collection. But then Char came to me, and for her VTubing group, they needed some videos done for the new generation that just came out. So she asked me to do cover videos for that. Also, some other stuff. Small graphics for another VTuber in this, but doing this Idol Master video was the main thing that I did for her. And that was earlier, well, now it's January, but early in December, end of November. And the cool thing about this video is that it's simple, but I spent more time on the design part of it, kind of. You'll see, it's graphic, like, in terms of, like, very graphic oriented with shapes, but it still has a somewhat visual novel-esque style to it. Hey,
どこかへおるかけお嬢様喉がガラガラ限界ギリギリ発狂寸前キューン2番目に生きてる人がいいいいえ人なら誰でもいいの贅沢言わないハーゲン美味しそうな男の子ズルルンいいものあげる暗闇で思わせぶりにウインクはい噛みながら目を伏せてパッと待ってガッとやってチュッとしてシャナリシャナリお嬢様か弱い王は出惑わせる人見たら釘付けよ青白い腹赤い唇ヴァンパイアガールキャー シャナリシャナリお嬢様100年生きてるロリタ愛して人には背を向けてルビーの瞳濡れたまつげのヴァンパイアガールキャ
so yeah, just a cover video that I did. I think that's the last thing in my list too. Yeah. I like the gold. I always struggle with gold, but I think I did a decent job this time. Decently decent. I like. Where's the frame? This frame. Hold on. I like how that looks. It's actually interesting. It originally, I think, started a little bit later. Yeah. Let me find the original thing I sent. So yeah, the original reference that she sent me was a little bit lighter of like something she wanted. And so I originally did like
どこかへおるかけお嬢様喉がガラガラ限界ギリギリ発狂寸前
but I definitely like the darker approach, the more reds, and I think it fits the art, the actual style better. Doing gold is a pain in the ass, by the way. Like gold type like that. Like it's just a bunch of pre-comps. Like, let's see if I can open. Nope. So yeah, I have Char and Char 2 because AMV Char also like I did a commission for last year. So I already had a Char folder in my commissions and then Char 2. So yeah, let's look at this gold text really quick. It's not perfect. But I think it was a good medium ground between like really taking the time. Because if you look at if you look at like gold text on Google, you'll see there's a bunch of different like ways to do it, and like a lot of these have like super amounts of like bevel or texture to it. So it's super sharp. So I was trying to find a way that you can do a gold without spending too much time on the individual letters, but still adding that kind of 3D look to it. Because sometimes, like, these look a little blobby. So you don't want it to look blobby. But there's a... It's like a balancing act between finding the sharp kind of embezzled gold versus, like, this just looks flat and not shiny. Like, it looks a little bit shiny because it has those gradients on it, but it's missing that like glow, that shine. Which mine doesn't have like a lot of that shine because I did a little bit more of a noisy, metally texture to it versus a super sleek gold. But yeah, it's how did I build this? It's like 2 layers of the type, where it's like a darker and a lighter, and then I have just a stock image of gold that is overlaid on top of a beveled, has a gradient ramp and a bevel, double bevel. Yeah. You see this, I use the pre-comping techniques. You have this in 3D space in this pre-comp, and then out here I turned on the rasterize so that it keeps that 3D space as we have a camera in this comp. So I did for all of those sections. But yeah, that's pretty much it. There's one video that I'm working, well, I just finished up. I'll show a little bit of it. It's coming out tomorrow. I have a tiny preview. Where is it? This is the one, yeah. Oops. See, this is another tiny preview of this, which I was working on stream. Also, if you notice, the common theme with the rap is some green-haired.
を済ましたらハトビルうるさすぎて揺れ立ちするあなたは幸せですかまだ夢とか希望持てますか会社でいじめられてますかアルコール飲みすぎてませんか What the fuck is moderation You looking at the tiger in the eye with the mind of a migrant tyrant ほっといたら首つって once in a blue moon smile peace 精神科医にお前の目に間に山にあるの中に中の出ない何もかも
Thanks. Yeah, it's coming out soon. I'll post the full video when it's out.
夢のお邪魔だけじゃないよねすまないよ夢にもお邪魔上等レミセレタイプの悪魔歌だけでもずっとアクセル右奥が導くゼロ距離の耳元おまけに起こすよ君の義理の妹俺らが噂のミスヘッドYeah 一瓶飲んでもいっそ眠れなピン Yeah 網膜に広げるよ必死のチェス Yeah ハメルンが導く眠れなキス Yeah 眠れなよ一体それ誰のせいアミ妨害この人のせい夜の
So yeah, that's coming out soon. That's, I think, the last thing that I did in 2020. And like I said, I did a bunch of other shit in this year. Like, there's some, like, actual, like, this is getting off the topic of, like, Weeb work. This is, I did other kind of, I'm not going to play, But you see, like, this, it all's kind of connected in a way. And I did a bunch of these. I'm muting this because this is, I don't know, not covers and... So yeah, these are like basic lyric videos and whatnot that I did. But yeah, those were like the 6 things that really kind of stood out to me in terms of animation and whatnot. My main thing for this year, I think, animation-wise, my biggest fallback was time. So I ran out of time on a lot of projects, or I had to rush a bunch of things. Even like kind of taking a step back and realizing that I have a quality that I want to get to, that I can't do if I take on a million things at once. So kind of keeping that in mind. Like, the next thing that I'm probably going to work on, I have one short commission that I need to finish for a friend, but that's pretty simple, and it's already, like, halfway done. And then this I started, I think, a week or 2 ago on stream, another Sapphire, video, Pokemon themed, which I love. So that's coming up. But yeah, there's things like this where it's like I could just kind of speed through and get something done. But I like doing it. Hi, Miko. So yeah, that's like, looking back on all these videos, that's kind of like the main thing. Also just like paying attention to details that I miss. Like that one transition really bothers me in RPG. And like I should have caught that. Again, it was probably some mixture of time, but also just like there's some things where I'm like, oh, I'll come back to it, and then I never do. Actually, animation-wise, I want to start doing a little bit more crazy kind of MoGraphy stuff. Kind of going back into like really cool text, and I see all these like super cool things on, hold on. Like everybody's posting their reels right now, and there's so much like really cool type stuff, and like I want to play more with this kind of look, kind of mixing something like this with my current style. I'm not showing my whole Twitter because I don't know what's in my Twitter likes. But yeah, like, there's just so much cool motion stuff that's going on. And I've talked about this before, but the difference between like Eastern and Western motion design is super interesting to me. How they're the same techniques and they're the same ideas, but the execution is totally different. Like, we're using a lot of shapes here in the US, and it's very standard, but there's nothing really this poppy. And it's starting to become more mainstream here. But it's this weird mixture where you see things from two different perspectives. And that's one of the things that I like about doing this kind of weeb work and then my real work, like I said, because they're two very different looks and feels, but they overlap, so I can take things from one section and put it in another thing. A good example of that is like, this was at the start of 2020. But you're doing this really kind of poppy type, kind of. It made me start to do it more in CB animations, and it's just interesting to see how everything overlaps that way. I'm trying to think of what else. I made a list of, like, you know, goals for 2021. A lot of them are somewhat personal goals. My main thing, like I was talking about, is trying not to overwork myself in the sense of, like, burning myself out, which I have a tendency to do. And it's hard because it's like, I'm never really burnt out. Like, I can always power through work. I can always get the project done. It's just trying to get it done at the level that I want to get it done. I also do want to do more, like, streams. Like I said before, I hate my voice, and I don't think I'm entertaining, but for some reason I want to stream, because, one, it motivates me to do work, because if I'm streaming, it means that I can't just fuck around. And two, I do know some things about After Effects and animation, which I think could be helpful to people. So just being around more in the sense of that. So taking on commissions where it's like, oh, I'm allowed to stream and kind of show my process. Do more time lapses in that way. Another thing that I want to do animation-wise is I want to do more tutorials, or actually do tutorials. I've done a few, like, short meme ones on Twitter where it's like, oh, this is how you move the anchor point of text, or this is how you do, like, that speed graph thing that I just showed. But wanting to do more structured tutorials, which I've tried in the past. I just have to get past the mindset of I'm rambling, or I hate my voice, or I'm not saying anything that's helpful. So trying to get past all that. But hopefully we can do it. You can see, if you go to my videos, a lot of these are me trying to do tutorials on certain things and then giving up and being like, nobody cares, Char. What else I got? I have to clean my desktop, that's a goal. It's just interesting to see how everything evolves over time. That's why I like Pinterest, because it has such cool examples. But yeah, I think that's it. I was gonna cut a demo reel. Well, just like a 2020 recap. I think I'm gonna do that later tonight. Just something quick. Last year Here, we'll look at last year's real quick. My channel. Wow, am I right? Yeah, I'm turning the audio really low because I don't want to get totally copyrighted, but I think it's only copyrighted in like one country, so whatever. But yeah, this is kind of where I was last year, and you can see that there's a lot less like actual type stuff going on. It's still a little janky. This is right when I got back into doing CBs and whatnot. So yeah, kind of cutting another one of these. Maybe a little bit more serious. Who knows? Yeah, kitty. Hi, honey. She woke up. She was sleeping the whole time during it, and I was streaming, and now she's here. But yeah, that's all I have, unless anybody has questions or like, I don't know. I want to interact more with people. I want people to tell me what they want. She is very talkative. She talks a lot. Like, tell me tutorials that you want, things you want to see, things you like or dislike style-wise, or like, I mean, not even style, but like, everybody has their own preferences. Everybody has videos that they like. Some of my personal favorite videos that I've done may not be favorites of other people's, or some people's styles are completely different, have different looks on, like, you know, timing and pacing and what's important to them. So it's always interesting to see what people are saying and doing and what they like, because it kind of all merges into each other. Like I was saying, all of the different things that I'm doing, the NBA and sports stuff, the music stuff, the Crunchyroll and infographic stuff, they all kind of merge together at some point where there is an overlap. I think the closest thing to a MEP style and CB that I've done is RGB, and it's this mixture of, like, let's look at some. I didn't do a lot of A&B editing this year, but I did some. MEPs are way faster paced. Since you're only working on such a tiny section of it, you, one, have time to detail everything out, and two, I don't know, that's just the style of how it looks. So I think the main thing that I took from MEPs into CB was, one, some sense of color. Even Spring Day, where it doesn't look like I had a real color palette, I had a vibe to it. I had a vibe going on. I kept those blues and that kind of theme of that winter theme. And then I went into the spring theme, and I think I actually have like the color palettes, the original color palettes that I chose, where it wasn't like I was color picking these colors, but I was using them as a guide to build out the video. Another thing is, like, just looking at especially type and how they're doing transitions. One thing I noticed in A&Bs a lot is there's a lot of the spinning and kind of flipping rotations, which can be overdone, especially if you're doing a CB. It really depends on the song and the feel. One thing that I've run into too is, like I said, there's a difference in viewing preference between the two. A lot of people who are watching A&Vs like this, like half of them make A&Vs. So half of them know what they're looking at. Other people just see and they're like, oh, that looks cool. And they like the anime, and they like the song, and they like it all together. But looking at something from the lens of an animator or an editor is completely different than looking at something through a lens of just a viewer. Which I think, especially in like CBs and vocal covers and things like that, honestly, the animation isn't the prime focus. It's part of it, and it's part of the overall project, but everything's somewhat equal. The mix is equal to the art, which is equal to the vocals. While in an A&V, people already know the song. A lot of people already know the anime, so they can really focus on the animation itself. And so when you add all of those things together, when you're looking at like a CB entry or something like that, if you do something as crazy as a MEP, part of it is taking away from, I'm not going to say all the time. Of course, there's always like times where it works. But part of it might be taking away from that vocals or that mix or that art. And that is just as important as the animation itself. And you're not just making an animation for animation's sake. You're making an animation for the sake of making a project with these other people. So that's kind of like my mindset behind it. Style-wise and actually technically wise, it's a lot of the same things. You're doing the same effects and you're doing the same camera moves and everything. It's the same in that regard. It's kind of like this mentality going into it. The biggest thing that I pull from MEPs and A&Vs, which I think changed from like the old CB style, was the typography and the transitions and the color theme. Those are like the main. If you look at old CBs, a lot of it was very pretty and very slower cut, and there wasn't as much to the type itself and background elements. So I think combining the two and finding this happy medium it's hard, but that's kind of where I would start. Sorry, it's a little bit rambly, but it's a hard thing to say for sure. Like, what is the right thing to do and the wrong thing to do, because it is still objective to each person. One thing that I've learned talking to people in the community, is, especially a lot of, like I said, looking at something from an animator's perspective, from a vocalist perspective, is two completely different things. And sometimes those crazy movements and that crazy pacing that like a MEP has, or like some new CB covers have, it's a lot for people to take in, especially if they're not used to digesting that type of medium. If I was to show something like this to someone who'd never seen any kind of AMV or MEP or whatnot before, they would enjoy it because they would think it looks cool, but at the same time, their mind would be like, I can't process what's happening. Well, as someone who has done this kind of work and knows what I'm looking at, I can kind of break down and be like, wow, I can really appreciate the effort and the design and the animation that goes into things. And that's definitely something that I've learned over time. So like, you go all the way in one direction and then you kind of start to pull it back, and then you'd be like, oh, now it's a little too basic, or too, I don't feel like I'm doing enough of this one thing, so you kind of push back into the other side. But yeah, it's always this kind of like innovativeness where people think it's cool and new, but not too crazy sometimes, where it's too much. And like I said, this is like personal preference, but that's kind of my experience from actually working as well. You do a lot of things where it's like, oh, this is super cool, I'm gonna do this super cool effect, I'm gonna do this super cool animation style, and like, I'm gonna try all these different effects and these tutorials out, and then you finally show somebody and they're like, we need to tone it down. And I wouldn't take that as an insult if someone ever tells you that. Because you are talented in the sense of you can do these things, but it's like doing it at the right time in the right place. Do I have anything else that's like... Yeah, I think this was earlier this year, just map parts that I did. And my style of like actually AMV editing is still way slower than a lot of people's. There's kind of the start to that like one style that I later did, and yeah, I'm not playing audio because this is actual music, not covers. But yeah, it's definitely good to pull reference from every different place. That's why I have Pinterest. That's why, you know, I check Vimeo. I check Motionographer. I check all these sites and all of these different Twitters because the style's always evolving and changing, and what people like is always evolving and changing. I don't know if that's gonna sound, but yeah, that's my Discord too. That's like my server. Or I post kind of I think of my server as like an in-between between like motion world and anime world. Anime motion world. Oh, look, you could, I didn't mean to click that, but you could see that I fucking rented the Scooby-Doo movie. Created playlists. But yeah, I think that about covers everything. Again, I want people to tell me what they want, because I don't know what people want. You always find me on Twitter and Discord. I'm trying to make that server that I just linked a little more active too. The past year it's been a little bit dead because yeah, 2020. But yeah, I'll show a little bit of so yeah, this is the server. It's more like, you know, info on motion graphics, visual effects. Mar, they talk about the visual section. And then promos and what everybody's doing. Inspiration is one of my favorite things. Usually I just kind of use this as a place to post cool motion stuff that's happening. Like this to me is super cool, but also it's a lot going on, but I really like it. So there's this like weird part of me that's like, damn, that's rad, but also what? And also eyes. But I really want to just sit here and break down everything that's happening. There's so much cool stuff. One thing that I find super interesting, this is just kind of me talking, is how this glitchy distortion gradient kind of, I'm gonna call it nasty, but it's not nasty, style has come back. Where like I can do a difference layer on like that video that I just finished up, where it's like I can do stuff like this, and like that style is just kind of dirty, but it looks cool, and it's like a thing that people like now, and I think that's neat how everything kind of comes back. Now I have a million tabs open. But yeah, I think the main thing is finding that balance between design, animation, pacing. Those are the most important things to me, personally. And I think if I was to rank it, I think like pacing is number 1, design is number 2, and animation is 3, especially in like covers. Like I'm just speaking purely on like covers and lyric videos, because animation is important, but you can do a simple animation effectively on a great design and it's gonna look amazing. If you have a shitty design and amazing animation, animators are gonna know it looks good, the animation is good, but design is such a key thing to people's eyes now that that's one of the first things they're gonna pick up on. Is it composited well? Are the effects well done? Is the color well done? Those kind of things. So kind of, and of course pacing goes along with that too. You can't have a totally poorly paced video and have it look good. So it has to get the information across that it needs to get across. That's what I keep on, like, pacing and information. Then design. Does it look good? Can you make even like a single frame look really nice? Is the color good? Is the art blended? Is all of this working together? And then do animation. And of course, like I said, basic animation is good. Add more advanced animation, it'll get even better. But yeah, that's just kind of like my insight of the day. But yeah, I hope 2021 is decent. Personally, I'm excited to kind of look forward to projects that I'm planning to do with people, even the ones that I have kind of lined up at the moment. And then in my actual work life, trying to figure out, with the amount of commissions that I've been getting, kind of being able to take more time off of work and being able to do more commissions on the side. Trying to restructure my whole work schedule. The first 2 months of the year, I'm gonna take a little bit of a break. I'm really bad at taking time off. I already have a few things lined up, but kind of narrow it down to like the essentials and like the projects that I really want to do and figure it out, because it is one of those things, like, going forward, like, what do I really want to do with motion? I love my job and I love all my freelance clients, but with the amount of freelance work that I'm getting now, I'm privileged enough to be able to take full months and weeks off and be able to put time to something else. So what am I going to put that time to? Is it going to be commissions? Is it going to be tutorials? Is it going to be... I don't know yet. I just know that I like After Effects. There, I said it. And I like animating, so I'll figure it out. Like, we have this collab going on, which was supposed to be due in November, but I died. And just running more things like this. I think it's important to have some kind of gap between the real motion world and the anime motion world, and having people see both sides of it. I think it's beneficial for both sides. Oh, whoa, you do not need to see that. You saw nothing. This is what this is what I wanted. This is what I wanted. There we go. But yeah, I didn't go through every video, but I hope even just watching things back after a few months, you get a new insight on what you liked and what you didn't like and how to improve on things. Even if it's just kind of like a generic thing. Like, there's many videos where I'll watch them back and I'll be like, I just wasn't vibing with it. And I still don't vibe with it. And I'm not sure why, but just being aware that that happens. And knowing that, like, when you're working on something again, if you start to feel that same kind of feeling, being able to go back and be like, yeah, I did the same thing here, and maybe this is what I wasn't liking. So I think doing reviews like this is a good thing. So yeah, I'm gonna head off now if there's no more questions or whatnot. Again, I'm always around on Twitter or Discord. Want to be around more. Gonna go eat and probably cut a reel. No problem. I'm glad you enjoyed it. I'm always so nervous on like actually talking to people. And yeah, I'll keep the VOD up. It's a little long, but maybe I'll do a cut of it. Who knows? We'll see. But yeah, thank you for coming if you did come. Again, let me know anything you want in the future. And I'll be around.